Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me for this new episode of Inspiring Our World. Today, we're going to talk about how healthy is your indoor environment. You know, when we think of pollution, smog, plastic, garbage, and contaminated bodies of water come to mind. But what about indoor pollution? Other than bad air caused from smoking, cooking, mold, mildew, and animal dander, what else makes our indoor environment unhealthy? The use of EMF and RF devices is growing exponentially. These devices transmit wirelessly using electromagnetic fields, EMF, and radio frequencies, RF. They are not safe and are harmful to adults and children. Examples include mobile or cordless phones, Wi-Fi or Bluetooth-enabled devices, and the infrastructure that allows for their usage. Electromagnetic radiation around the 1 gigahertz frequency band, which is mostly used for modern wireless communications, has increased from extremely low natural levels by about 10 times. Radio frequency electromagnetic radiation is also used for radar, security scanners, smart meters, and medical equipment, MRI, diathermy, and radio frequency ablation. In a nutshell, exposure to EMF and RF is virtually at every indoor facility we may enter. This type of health risk is known as anthropogenic environmental exposure. Anthropogenic is defined as relating to or resulting from the influence of human beings on nature. EMF and RF exposure will continue to surge as technological advances proliferate. At the Oceania Radio Frequency Scientific Advisory Association, an independent scientific organization, volunteer scientists have constructed the world's largest categorized online database of peer-reviewed studies on radio frequency electromagnetic radiation and other man-made electromagnetic fields of lower frequencies. A recent evaluation of 2,266 studies, including in vitro and in vivo studies in human, animal, and plant experimental systems and population studies, found that most studies have demonstrated significant biological or health effects associated with exposure to anthropogenic electromagnetic fields. The evidence supports the International EMF Scientist Appeal by 244 scientists from 41 countries who have published on the subject in peer-reviewed literature and collectively petitioned the World Health Organization, WHO, and the United Nations, the UN, for immediate measures to reduce public exposure to artificial electromagnetic fields and radiation. Evidence also exists of the effects of radio frequency electromagnetic radiation on flora and fauna. For example, the reported global reduction in bees and other insects is linked to the increased radio frequency electromagnetic radiation in the environment. Some government health authorities have recently taken steps to reduce public exposure to radio frequency electromagnetic radiation by regulating use of wireless devices by children and recommending preferential use of wired communication devices in general. It's unrealistic for us to stop using our EMF and RF devices. However, we can make concerted efforts to detach from them during downtime. We also need to make sure our children are not glued to their cell phones and gaming devices. As inhabitants of planet Earth, we urgently need to reconnect to Mother Nature. Now, this is an area that has fascinated me for a long time, and I'm going to give you a few quick tips here and some resources. So some of the quick tips, and certainly they're not all of them, are turn your Wi-Fi off at the router whenever you're not using it, especially at night, every night. You'll see the difference in your sleep. It's amazing. Don't rest your computer directly on your lap. I see this happen so often, and I really will mention it to people if I see it. And of course, especially if you're pregnant. But at any time, it is not a good idea. Get a special anti-radiation EMF blocking case for your cell phone. There are lots of them out there, and they're all a little different and all a little similar. I happen to use Gadget Guard, but you use whatever you deem to be the best. Don't keep your cell phone in your pocket, especially you guys. Keep it away from the body. This is so important. There's so many correlations to massive reduction in sperm count and all other kind of issues occurring from having it so close to the body all the time. Turn your cell phone onto airplane mode at night and recharge it in another room or as far away from where you sleep as possible. Get a simple battery-operated alarm clock rather than use your cell phone. Don't use electric blankets when you sleep. Avoid making calls in cars, trains, or buses, in elevators or underground whenever possible. Your cell phone has to work much harder to get a signal out through metal, so the power level increases in any of these metal cages. If you have to use your phone in the car, then crack the window open a little. This will definitely help to some extent. Here are some resources. There are some great books out there. Books to study. So here's one, Zapped: Why Your Cell Phone Shouldn't Be Your Alarm Clock, and 1,268 Ways to Outsmart the Hazards of Electropollution, by Anne Louise Gittleman. Now, I happened to meet Anne Louise Gittleman coincidentally at an airport once, and you know what? Both of us were refusing to go through the TSA security scanner, and we were requesting a pat down instead. And this is how we got talking, and we had the richest conversation ever about this issue. Here's another book, Radiation Nation, by Daniel and Ryan DeBorn. Here's another one, EMF *D, 5G, Wi-Fi, and cell phones, Hidden Harms and How to Protect Yourself, by Dr. Joseph Mercola. I'm sure many of you who are fascinated by health, as we all are, know Dr. Mercola well. Here's another one, EMF Practical Guide, The Simple Science of Protecting Yourself, Healing Chronic Inflammation and Living a Naturally Healthy Life in Our Toxic Electromagnetic World, by Lloyd Burrell. Lloyd Burrell comes from the UK, and he does a lot of online seminars on this subject. So if you want to explore his work, he has done an amazing job and is really spreading the word. I like his work very much. So clearly, there's a very real growing concern with the overexposure of EMFs, and Nikken has products to address this issue. As we focus on getting back into harmony with nature, we see our health and vitality steadily improve. I would encourage you to use the Nikken Kenko ground against your skin anytime you're using a computer. I have mine on the table underneath my laptop with my bare forearms resting on it as I work. You could also put it under your bare feet. I also have a Kenko ground in my bed at night underneath my bare feet as I sleep. If you incorporate the different components of the Nikken Wellness Home into your active wellness lifestyle, it will make a vast difference in your overall well-being, despite being surrounded by EMFs everywhere you are and everywhere you go. This is a major and mounting problem in our world. We need to reconnect to nature. So let's do it, and let's spread the word. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this. Please do share this podcast with others, and please do follow us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and please do rate this with a 5-star rating. Thank you so much, everyone. We have lots of good work to do out there in the world. Let's be the messengers that the world deserves. All the best to you, and I'll speak to you next week. Bye for now.